Imagine knowing exactly what your students are learning and exactly which steps you need to take next.
Join us in Down with the Reading Quiz to craft meaningful and productive formative assessments that move away from gotcha moments of basic recall and toward assessing what your students actually can do.
In this 30-minute free masterclass, we'll share 3 powerful assessment keys that work for any novel at any time of the year.
Head to shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to sign up, and we'll also send you a free workbook to keep track of all your notes.
Once again, that's shop.bravenewteaching.com/masterclass to nail formative assessments forever. Well, hey everyone. This is my first little entry into this ADHD Amanda goes for evaluations to figure out what's going on with her brain episode here. I'm not going to number it because I'm certainly going to forget what number I'm on by the time I get all these little entries recorded. But I thought this might be an interesting experience for you all to go on with me. I've been sharing about this in my stories. I've been sharing about it in the podcast. And we know statistically and research-wise that there are lots of women, lots of us who are high-achieving women in our 30s and 40s who were overlooked and never diagnosed when we were younger and likely have been coping with and living with ADHD our whole entire lives. So because I've heard from so many of you, I thought this would be something worth documenting. And I know the podcast is really where we spend most of our time talking about education, but I really do think mental health and education are completely and totally intertwined. And if there's something you can learn from my experience, I hope it will help you as a human, as a person who either is going through it or has a significant other or someone in their family that you love, and it helps you understand them better. If it's you, you don't feel so alone, or maybe it will just help you get a little bit of a glimpse into what this is like for some of your students. I mean, granted, I'm not going through this as a teenager, but I wonder if there will be any insights along the way that still kind of resonate with you as you think about your students. So today is Sunday, March 24th. It is the day before my first set of diagnostic tests. I guess, I don't know if they're diagnostic actually. I'm kind of learning about all of this as we go. The first step that I did not record was an intake interview that I did with one of the doctors at my counseling office practice. And she, when I met with her, did a pretty extensive interview. It was mostly to get to know me, my backstory, my family health history, my family mental health history. And so after we finished that, we set up the appointments for tomorrow, where I will be getting my first out of 3, I believe, first out of 3 tests. And it looks like tomorrow's test is actually going to be an IQ test. And one of the things the doctors told me was that when they do scan for ADHD, they're also looking for anxiety and depression, because a lot of times things overlap or look like one another. And so they're going to try to sort out what's going on for real in my brain. And I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. And I think for me as a mom and as an educator, I've always felt like more information generally makes me feel calm. And I know that's not everybody's take, but information helps me understand and then make a plan and move forward. I feel like not knowing, I've tossed around the word ADHD quite a bit in describing myself lately, especially because I feel very, very confident that executive functioning is something that I struggle with. I think I can say that without any kind of formal diagnosis. I know that executive functioning is where I struggle. And whatever information I can get out of this evaluation, I think will just help me understand more about how my brain works and what I can do to help myself move forward. I mean, this is really impacting me every day in my work, in my personal life, in my physical health. So I am looking forward to more information. So stay tuned. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Do I need to have a good night's sleep? Probably. Have a healthy dinner. I feel like this is like what we tell students before they have their tests the next day. So That's the plan. A healthy dinner and a good night's sleep, and we'll check it in the morning. You're listening to Brave New Teaching, and we are so much more than a podcast.
We give teachers the inspiration, support, and tools to challenge the status quo.
I'm Amanda, and I'm a former English teacher from Illinois.
And I'm Marie, and I'm a teacher from Southern California.
Join us at bravenewteaching.com to find out more about our courses, festivals, and get every episode's show notes.
We're so glad you're here. Enjoy the show.
All right, well, we are here. I just pulled in the parking lot, and it's day one, people. We are going to go do this round of testing. So how am I feeling? Pretty calm, actually. I feel good. I got here really early because this has been like the only thing on my mind for the day. So I woke up thinking about it. I woke up planning for it. I didn't really try to do anything else. I dropped off the kids at grandma's house for a little while, and I'm here. So let's do it. Do I have? All right, now here we go. Where are my keys? Where is my phone? In my hand. All right. I'm Amanda. I'm not exactly sure who I'm seeing, but I'm doing a ADHD screening.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's with Dr. Anna. She'll be right.
Oh, okay. It's at 11, so okay. Thank you. Alrighty. So I just left round one of testing. What did we do? Oh my gosh, I am really tired. Like, first note, I'm exhausted. And I was exhausted early into the testing. I could feel my brain just like completely and totally shutting down. It was every worst nightmare of every kind of standardized test that I already had. So it was an IQ test, I believe, that I did first. So there was a lot of, here are some blocks, arrange the blocks in this pattern, finding patterns. We actually, believe it or not, had to do some word problems, like out loud math. You guys, it was not great. It was not great. My favorite section of the test was a section where we did analogies. And so she would ask, like, how are these two words similar? And I was like, oh, well, which version of the answer do you want? The like single word or the short answer body paragraph? And so I feel like that section was lovely. There was kind of another section that was, I don't know what they called it, but it kind of felt like Trivial Pursuit. You know, there were all these kinds of questions we had to answer, like who was Cleopatra? Who was Martin Luther King? On what continent is the Sahara Desert? Things like that. I am so upset with myself because you know what I got wrong? I couldn't remember for the life of me the author of Sherlock Holmes. Okay, so I'm saying that right now. I want you to think, do you know off the top of your head the author of Sherlock Holmes? Like, I've also never really been into Sherlock Holmes or read more than maybe a few excerpts. But spoiler alert, it's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Whoops. I was like describing to her, I was like, I can see the author's name in my head. Like I can see the byline, and then I was wrong. But I did know the author of Alice in Wonderland. So she's like, no one ever gets that one. I'm like, really? Well, hello. And I felt really good about myself for like a half second. And then I had to do more math. So the math was upsetting. And I'm like, is she taking notes on the way that I'm handling this situation or on how bad I am at doing math? Because it was a train wreck in there. And then after the IQ test, I ended with, oh my gosh, it's like MMCP. I have to look it up later and I'll tell you all what it was. But it's the survey that I feel like you probably have either filled one out for students or you've done one for yourself maybe at some point where you're saying they're just true or false questions about yourself, right? Like, I feel like someone is always following me, or I feel like I'm an outstanding person, or I get distracted easily. So that was 335 questions. That was long. It took me about 45 minutes or so to do that part. And so all in all, it was a 2-hour session. I will be heading back in a couple weeks for the next section, which the doctor reminded me will be equally exhausting because the next time is all about executive functioning. So that should be fun. All right, I'm signing off for now. I need to go eat something and drink some water because I am spent. If you are going to be going through this testing situation, I do want to just put your mind at ease if you have any anxiety about it. It was, well, at least in the office where I went, it was very straightforward, very calm. Like, there was nothing stressful about the situation other than the fact that I can't do math. So that's just my everyday life. Signing off for now. We'll be back soon. Okay, so I'm sitting in this room. Oh my God, seriously? And I'm sitting in front of this box, and I'm supposed to push this blue button. And I think it's 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then when I push the button, I get a point and the light goes off. I have no idea what's going on. But the fact that I'm distracting myself by recording this with you is probably a sign of the problem. To be continued. All right, my friends, I'm back. And it's time to hydrate because Lord knows that took a lot out of me. Okay, so let's talk about this. I had a moment while we were testing and I thought, man, this is kind of dumb that I'm even thinking about sharing it with you all. And then another moment where I was like, none of what I'm doing right now is what I thought this was going to be like. So I am going to press on and tell you more about it because I think the fear of the unknown mixed with the fact that we're terrible about taking care of ourselves, especially if you fall into the category of female and teacher, we notoriously are taking care of other people and not ourselves. So let's go through kind of what this second round, it was another 2 hours, what it entailed. The first activity I shared a little bit with you. I recorded, I can't believe I did that. But I was sitting in front of this machine and I was needing to press a button for these various different intervals. And so I have a hard time even remembering what all of the things were, but one of the tasks I had to do that was so hard. And I was like, is this a metaphor for my life? There was one screen with 3 panels, and each panel could display numbers, like digital numbers, just in picture like a stopwatch or a timer. And so all 3 panels were going at the same time, flashing numbers. And I had to focus on just the middle panel. And I had to press the button when the number was 1 and followed by a 9. Only that combination and only the middle panel. So I don't know if you can, I don't know if you can picture this. There's like me sitting at a table that's like way too short for me in a chair that's incredibly uncomfortable, staring at a screen of flashing numbers, trying to focus on just one. The room's incredibly silent except for one ticking clock, and I'm trying to push a button after 1 and 9. It was so hard, and I thought about like, man, like I could feel like, I don't know what the debrief is going to be when I talk to my doctor in a few weeks, but the ability to focus amongst distraction was feeling like it was like top of the list of that part of that conversation there. And it was really, really hard and really, really draining. I think that that's what I didn't anticipate before doing formal testing was going to be how these activities were going to make me feel so exhausted. Another part of today's work were some surveys. I did some surveys last time as well. And here's kind of the big aha moment I had, and I was debriefing with my friend Ashley a little bit on my way home today, talking to her about this. And I think First of all, Ashley, I'm speaking right to you. Ashley told me that she was proud of me. And like that like makes my heart so full, because I think I could have very easily self-diagnosed ADHD based on what I've seen online and based on what I know from being an educator. But actually going through this testing has given me such a different perspective on not just knowing, like, I'm pretty sure I have ADHD, right? Like, that's fine. But like going through the tests and like now also having the confidant of the doctor who's been there with me. And I'm also thinking like when we go through this conversation and like we kind of go through the assessments and like what everything said to her and like what it indicates, these tests made me feel so many of the things that I was talking about in my survey, right? Like one of the things that comes up in this survey a lot is about my energy level or about my socialization, or they're about like the way that you interact with the world. And I noted on my survey multiple times how tired I am, how exhausted I am, and how difficult it is for me to kind of pivot or like change gears when I need to. And like that kind of impacts my emotions and all these things. But like I could feel all of these things that I express about like my lifestyle and like what's hard for me right now. I could feel them all so viscerally inside these tests. The numbers one was a big one. Another test that I did, oh my gosh, you guys, the doctor read me a list of words. Let's see if I can remember some of them. It was like truck, spinach. So here I am trying to remember. The list was maybe 15 words. And then she asked me to recall as many as I could in whatever order I could several times. Could I get the whole list? Not once did I get the entire list. There were some that I just completely forgot every single time. Like it wasn't until the end of the test and I was like, oh, celery was on that list? Like I thought that was from like that things like completely like were blacked out. Like I know that this is a very rambling recap, but I think that is exactly how I feel. Is the disheveledness of my brain is directly impacting my energy and how exhausted I am. And that's why I'm seeking this information. Is like, I need to figure out how my brain works. Like going on Instagram and saying I have ADHD isn't going to help me get treated. And whether or not I go the route of medication or not, I think the information I'm going to get from testing about specifically how it looks in me and my brain and my situation, where I am, my age, my marital status, my family status, that's what I need help with. And I'm really grateful for the pushes I got from a lot of my friends and my family to go forward with this, and like the support from the community has been just so amazing. And so I would say now that I am done now, so I've finished all of the tests and now I need to wait for results pretty much. So at this point, I want to just like say, if you have the opportunity to get tested, do it. Do it. This is self-care. This is something that will help you know yourself better. Right? Like whether or not you act on what the doctors say, I hope for you that you would have a similar experience to me, which is just learning more about yourself, who you are, and how to take care of yourself. And I don't know, I hope that our final conversation really helps me do that. But I don't at all regret this experience. I also think this experience for me has been so enlightening in terms of returning to the classroom one day and thinking about my students. Oh my word. I just can't even fathom how hard it would be to not have the life experience to speak about this testing the way I am now and to be going through this as a kid. It's got to be so frustrating. But again, like if we go through it, we seek to understand and we listen to people around us. I think that this information is only going to get better and more accurate and more helpful. And we're going to learn more ways to support our students with ADHD other than giving them another place on the seating chart, which is what I feel like the extent of my training was as an educator, which is just abysmal. So all that is to say, the testing's not scary. it's a lot of patterns and blocks and moving things around and visual, spatial, and problem solving. And that's where I'm going to leave today's little tidbit. I will be back to check in with you on May 8th when I receive my call from the doctor and our results. Until then, take care. All right, so I'm about to log in for my final meeting today and see what's going on. Honestly, I'm a little bit nervous, but you know what? I think more information is good information. I've said that probably 1,000 times already as I've been recording, but okay, here goes nothing. Hey,
Hi.
hello.
How are you?
I'm curious, excited, nervous, all the things.
All of the things. Okay, well, I will not make you wait any longer. So here's what I will tell you is the way that I go over these things, I'm going to tell you what everything is first and foremost.
Okay.
Then we can go over everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay, cool.
So you have ADHD.
Okay. It's official.
It's official. You have it. It is combined type. So what I will say about that is, we have ADHD inattentive type, ADHD impulsive hyperactive type, and you have combined.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start talking first and foremost about your cognitive ability, because that is actually why you probably waited as long as you did to get testing. You are quite intelligent.
Okay.
Which is a good thing. Most people are like, oh, that's great. The problem is when you're intelligent with ADHD, a lot of times you do masking, right? So you are very much able to kind of get through things. You can procrastinate and still get things done. You can maybe not pay attention as much as you should be and still get by. So you can do a lot of the things that somebody with ADHD who might not have your level of intelligence would be like, what is wrong? Where you're like, I'm doing fine. Like, I'm getting by. My grades are okay. Like, this is okay. But it's like, but it's not, because you could be doing this much when you're getting by.
Okay.
Yeah. So your full scale IQ at this point is at a 124,
Okay.
Which is in what we call the superior range.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say, though, is that your scores are very indicative of somebody with ADHD, and let me explain. So typically somebody with ADHD with this high of an IQ typically will be lower in one or two areas, and it's usually processing speed and working memory, and yours was working memory. So what I will say about that is this. It's in the average range. It's not a deficit. It's not something that I'm like, oh, this is problematic. But for you, what that says to me is that's probably should be higher. The difference is that your brain is going through so many things that when I'm like, hey, remember this, you're going, oh, you want me to hold that in there too? Like, I can't hold that in there. There's too much in there right now. Like, good, nice try. That's cute, but I can't do that.
Okay.
So then the other thing about this, so let's talk about the button. Talk about that button. You were picture perfect ADHD on the button. And I loved when I came back in and all I said to you was, well, you were impulsive. And you were like, was I? That's picture perfect ADHD, right? It's like, you don't even know you're being impulsive.
No, I can remember like I was patiently like listening to the clock tick seconds. The same, and then I was, and then I wasn't, and then I was, and then I wasn't, and then yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
And you can see there's for some people with ADHD, it's like they start off really great, like they're doing so well on that one, and then towards the end, they'll either start off really well or end really well. And yours was like, there were these pockets of like, I did really well here. And then I didn't. And then I did really well here. And it's almost like I could watch you through your numbers. I was like, oh, look, she paid attention again. Oh, look, she was good there. Oh, look, she was good. And then with the numbers kind of flashing, I will say the one where it was just in one column, you did okay. Definitely a little bit lower than it should be for your cognitive level.
Interesting.
That last one where it was in all three columns was like hardcore no for you.
Big time.
So that's where I was like, okay, cool. I see what's going on. So the other thing that I want to talk about is executive functioning, because that's the important piece where, I mean, it's all important, but this one for me is, especially as an adult, the part where most adults get really frustrated with, where it's like, why am I'm a high functioning individual who I can't remember X, Y, and Z, or the planning or the organizing or whatever. Like, why can't I do this? So your self-report, you were like, hi, I need help. I am the planning, the organizing, the shifting, the starting, the finishing, like doing all of that was such a difficult thing for you. And so the two different executive functioning tests, so the one with the balls and then the one with the cards. So what I will tell you is, if I gave you a specific set of rules, so with the balls, I'm like, this is what I need you to do. Here are the rules. It is timed. Your brain went, cool, done. I got this. The minute I took all of that away and I was like, hey, figure it out, your brain went, that's cute. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen. And so for you, that's the biggest thing, is that if I could organize your entire life for you, your brain would go, that's so nice. I can do this. Yeah. I can do this. But the minute it's like, here's this box, I need you to figure out what goes in, how it goes in, and what it needs to do, you're like, that's not my forte. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. And again, I think you can compensate with that because, again, your cognitive ability is so high. And so if I asked you to do it, you could do it. Don't get me wrong. You would make sure it happened. You would get it done. But you're going to get it done in about triple the amount of time because you are overthinking it, because you are probably over planning, and because there are probably times that you get so frustrated when you get distracted by a million other things and you're like, crap, I have to do this. Why can't I stay focused on this? And so a smaller project or something that could be so simple, you are making more difficult than you need it to be.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right. That sounds very right. You were not wrong when you said I was not going to be surprised. You are confirming many of my suspicions right now. Okay.
So the other thing that I want to talk about, though, which is really, I think, a kind of a supplemental important issue, is the fact that your emotional functioning testing does put you at a clinical level of depression.
Interesting.
Okay. That's not surprising to me, actually. And here's why I say that. So most adults with ADHD who don't get diagnosed until later typically have emotional issues of some sort, whether that's a heightened level of anxiety or whether that is depression. It usually comes hand in hand with being diagnosed later in life. Okay. And that's because you are truly and honestly just trying to figure out why it is that you know what you're supposed to do and you just can't do it. Or I am a really high functioning, I can do all of these things. Why sometimes am I really, really good at certain things and other times I tank and I can't even start this one thing, or I can't even whatever. Like it's frustrating. And after so long of trying different things and trying to find ways to cope and the more that you try and fail, the harder you fall, to be honest. And so when I see somebody who is coming in, you're doing well, you're successful, there's also, I'm sure, such a level of frustration that I think led to what we're talking about here. And that is that kind of clinical level of depression, which again looks so different in so many people. People with ADHD specifically, when they are depressed, typically don't look like your typical depression, because you are able to kind of go. And so most of the time it's more internal, and you can kind of mask that depression with some of the things that you're doing on the go. Mm-hmm. And those, honestly, and this is why I said we really need to talk about this, those are the people I worry about the most. It's easy to spot someone who can't get out of bed. It's really hard to spot somebody who is very successful and depressed.
Okay. I don't know what to do with that.
Well, here's the honest truth, is that their answers is what this is. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You are, in terms of recommendations, in terms of what you need to be doing, you're already doing it, but now you're going to do it even more successfully because you have the answer. So you're seeing Carolyn. She's fabulous, fantastic, I love her. So now it's just a matter of her being like, cool, I see it now. Now I know exactly what we need to do, rather than speculating, oh, we probably should work on executive functioning. We probably should work on this. No, we do need to work on that. We have to find ways for you when you get frustrated, when something happens and you're like, I said I was going to start that 6 days ago.
Yeah.
Here's where we are today. Yeah. What are the roadblocks? What are those things? Because everybody has them, but somebody with ADHD, they typically, a roadblock for somebody without ADHD is going to look very different than somebody with ADHD, because the roadblocks here are usually easy to find. It's, I didn't want to do that, and here's why. For ADHD, that might be it. It might also be, I have 37 things in my brain right now.
Yeah.
And you're asking me to put them into a priority list. My brain doesn't know how to do that. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say, this is what I'm thinking about right now. It's probably lower on the priority list, but it's the one that's in my brain. So I have to do it. Yeah. And that's where for you need to figure that out. What does it look like for me to figure out a priority list? And maybe that's not what it is, but as you're going, now we're looking at it from my brain is an ADHD brain versus my brain is not a motivated brain. That's not true.
Okay.
Because it is. It's just working a little bit differently, and we have to figure out, you need to know that's how my brain works. And so instead of, why am I not motivated? Why can't I do this? It's, what is the roadblock?
Yeah. What
is it right now that my brain is struggling to do, and how do I do that in a different way?
I think the biggest reason that I ended up going to Carolyn and getting on this wait list was honestly because of my struggles with my health and weight loss. So, I mean, listening to you talk about it from a brain standpoint, like I think about, like, my whole life I was an athlete. I've been going to practices with coaches designated for me 100, like, until I was 20 years old. And then all of a sudden I was left to my own devices, and it's been another 20 years and I can't seem to take care of myself. And it's like, it's at a critical standpoint. Like, I need to figure out how to take care of myself in a way that, like, works with my brain. But I don't know if Carolyn's the person, or I don't know what or who or where to go to get those little, I don't know. It also, plays into that all or nothing, which is also a very defeating part of what's going on in my brain. And I don't think the depression helps now that I hear that. So, I mean, I think that would be like my biggest concern in terms of next steps, like what I would need to do, like, with that information.
Yes. And here's the other thing to think about, right? So as an athlete myself, right, your life is structured. Your life is structured. You can't,
completely.
It is. You have to go to class. Then you have to go to practice.
Yes.
Then you have to go and you're going to eat with the team, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So now you don't have that structure anymore. You don't have it. And so it's a matter of, okay, now you're left to your own devices and you have to structure that. Your brain is going, oh, you want me to do what? We've never had, not only do we not do that, we've never had to do that.
Never.
So you were kind of, I mean, honestly, doomed from the start. And I don't mean that in any other way than I'm so glad you're here, because your brain was not designed to do that. And unfortunately, our system, if you are going to go to college and be an athlete, your world was designed already structured for you in what you chose for yourself. Yeah. You chose a world that was already structured. And so, which was great. You probably didn't even realize that that's what your brain needed, but it did, and it worked. But then the minute you graduated, the minute that was over, you then had to pick that up. And yes, you could. You have the cognitive ability to do it. But the ADHD is going, I can't express to you, we can't do this. This has to look different. If we're going to have to do this on our own, it's going to look a lot different than what it did before. And here's how it's going to work. And yes, Carolyn can help with that. Now that we know that's what's going on, that this isn't, and let's talk about the eating part of it. We think about eating as an athlete. Right? You eat because you have to fuel your body. and you eat at the times you can eat because you're eating with the team after a game, or you're eating breakfast before a big tournament, and then you're burning it off. So it doesn't matter what you're putting in your mouth or in your body. It doesn't matter.
No.
It's going to come out really quickly, especially soccer. Are you kidding me? That's like, you forget it. You're burning it all. Now you now have to structure eating also in such a way that you don't get to eat what you did before, because nobody is burning that many calories. You're just not. If you were a college athlete, you have to figure that out. And your brain isn't doing that.
No.
And that's where, again, it's not just a fix your relationship with food. That's a part of it, because the depressive piece is also there too, where food could potentially also for you be a coping skill. So there's that piece of it. But there's also the piece of structuring food, structuring meals, structuring when to eat, when not to eat. I'm bored, I'm going to eat. That might also not just be a depression piece. It may also just be, I don't know how to structure that.
Yeah. And I feel like that, yes, it may be both. I feel like maybe like some emotional eating is part of it, or binging. But I feel like the biggest thing of what you're describing has been, there's no routine around food. It's because days are unstructured, or I'm in charge of structuring them. Like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I forget this, and then I'm really hungry later. And then I'm like, I can't, I tell Caroline all the time, like, I can't hear my body. Like, I feel like my body is screaming, like trying to give me these like very natural signals of like what it needs or what it doesn't need, and like to stop or start something, but I can't hear it. And I keep telling her, like, I feel disassociated. Like I have a head, but like my body's somewhere over there. Like we're not. And like part of that is also like childhood and body shaming and like all of that too. Like that doesn't help. But more than not, I feel like it's so noisy that I can't hear the things that are supposed to be naturally just going on in my head.
You literally just described an ADHD brain when it comes to food specifically. But I mean, not even just food, but other things too, I'm sure have that same relationship too, because your brain is loud. That's the way to say it. And I do recommend, let's talk about medication for a second, okay? I have a very different conversation with adults that have ADHD than I do with kids, because you may take a stimulant. And usually adults, I have one of two reactions. The first one is it tends to worsen their depression because it feels so good. It is quiet. I can structure things. I can slow down. And so it's a really good feeling. And so sometimes that's great. And you're like, but then where has this been all my life? Kicks in. And so that's the other thing, just to keep in mind that may happen. And so we don't want that depression to get, super low. But the other thing that happens is you have lived your whole life in this brain. You have lived at a faster pace. You have lived with the fullness. You have lived like that. And as much as we can sit here and harp on how hard it's been, you've also managed, and you've been resilient, and you figured it out and are successful. So that's a big piece of just you as a human. And so taking that medication is going to change the way that your whole world thinks and feels. And some people don't like that. Some people take that medication and go, oh no, it's too quiet now. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to manage that. And so they choose, I will figure it out through therapy and other things, but I can't live like that. Give me the noise. I can't take the quiet. And it could just be a matter of finding the right medication. It could just be that you're like, I've lived my whole life like this. I can't do it. I don't want it to change. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how I feel. I've always been, very hesitant in terms of medication, mostly because I never could commit to remembering to take it. So there's that. But I think I'm at this point, I'm not happy with where I am. And I feel like I do need to do something different. I think I will be, I already am disappointed that I've lived my whole life this way, and I don't think medication is going to burst that bubble. I think that bubble's pretty well been burst for a while. I feel like it would be crazy not to try something else, because I am at a critical point with my health that, I mean, and I've been going to Carolyn since October. So like, I think there's a good foundation and relationship with her at the base of whatever I try, and, you know, nothing's permanent, but, I don't know. I feel like it's probably would be in my best interest to give it a shot, because if it helps, if the quiet's what I need to get healthy, for me to focus on eating at regular intervals and not panic eating junk food in the drive-thru because I forgot to do X, Y, and Z, which is like where I find myself the most, is in a drive-thru because I forgot to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the critical, I mean, I'm not downplaying the depression. That's part of like carrying all this extra weight is not helping that either. So I guess in a very roundabout way, I would be interested in exploring what medication could do for me, but I feel good about, like, I feel like I could tell Carolyn this is not working, or I could tell you this is not working.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I feel like it's my recommendation in here is to go to a psychiatrist and say, with this eval, and say, here's what it is. I got diagnosed with this. They're going to put you on a stimulant. They're going to tell you this is what we need to try. They might also tell you they want to put you on an antidepressant as well. They might also say they just want to try the stimulant first, because that might actually then go, that you may not need the antidepressant at that point, just because they'd be like, let's try that and see where it goes. And like I said, that you might then feel amazing, but be like, but then the regret, guilt, whatever we want to talk about might come in and creep in, and then we might do that. Now, I will say this. If let's just say it's stimulant and antidepressant. Okay. That to you, again, like I'm not sure how I feel about medication. The antidepressant would be there just to get you through, so that you can kind of get back to a place where you're like, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is how I structure things. This is what I'm doing. And that's one that's typically pulled out, right? We don't want to stay on that long term. You want to be able to develop those coping skills. You just might need something, kind of both of those for the time being, to kind of figure that out. And then once you have, you're like, cool, as long as I have my stimulant, as long as I have this, I'm good. I don't need that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. What else do I need to know? Is that it? This is my life now?
That's it.
Okay.
That is it. That's your life now. This is you now.
Okay. All right. So my next steps are to figure out the executive functioning it will take to follow up with what you've given me, make it... schedule another appointment, open my calendar, organize another thing, and also get my son tested, even though your office doesn't cover him with that insurance. And okay, yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So talk with Carolyn, ask her who she thinks you should be with. But yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just a matter of continue with Carolyn, because I think that's, now that you have direction is the way I look at it. There's like, these are the things, this is the why. Now you know what you need to work on. And then, schedule an appointment with, a psychiatrist. Sometimes, I don't know who you see for like a general practitioner. Sometimes some general practitioners do prescribe medications, usually not stimulants though. I will say they're usually like, we leave that to the professionals. We leave that to the psychiatrists.
Okay.
Some do, but not usually.
Okay.
And especially if you're looking at kind of potentially 2 medications, they're like, go over here.
Okay. I will loop them in and my GP. I'm overdue for an appointment. Shocking. Anyway, so.
Shocking.
Who's surprised about that?
Yeah. Well, here's what I will say. So I'm going to send you the report.
Okay.
What I want you to do is I want you to read it over, look it over, look at everything. I edit my own work, so if you've got things for me to edit, it's fine. Just tell me what I spelled wrong or what I messed.
Yeah, no,
I'm not worried. But what I will say is this also is that sometimes then just reading through it and actually like seeing it, looking at things, figuring things out, that might bring up some more questions. You might be like, okay, now that I've had a minute to process, to sit, to whatever, let's talk. let's, at that point, just be like, hey, I've got some more questions. You may be like, listen, here's a couple questions. Shoot me an email. That's fine.
Okay.
Or you might be like, I need to talk again because there's a couple things I have questions about. Let's do it.
Cool. Love it. I'd love to do that. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being so patient with me and giving it to me real. I appreciate it.
Well, it's a hard thing to say that I love when adults come in when this is the case, because I do feel like most of the time what I'm seeing here, it could get a lot worse in terms of the depression. So you get a lot of people coming in going, I've been suicidal and here's why. And then I'm like, oh, that's because you've lived your entire life with this full brain and you didn't need to. Yeah. So I'm glad that you came in when you did. And it's going to get better from here. That's how it works.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. I really appreciate everything. All right. Thank you. We'll see you around.
Have a good rest of your day.
Okay. Bye. All right. Well, there we have it, folks. An official diagnosis. And you know what? I don't really know how I feel right now. I'm kind of all over the place. I had to stop recording and call my people and kind of talk it out with some family and a couple friends. And, I think what I've said before, information is good. It's going to help me move forward, but I feel a little bit betrayed, by my body, and I feel betrayed by the things I wish that may have been different, but I don't know. I also feel a little bit unsteady about the future. I feel like it's okay, confirmed, you've got it, but I still kind of have this battle to face. And in some ways not knowing was, I don't know, a little bit easier, but knowing now, I really have to take it in stride and work. And that's what it's going to take. Is it's going to take a lot of work to figure out how to actually cope, not fake cope or try to fit myself into a category of people and brains that don't look like mine. So thank you for hanging on and being part of this. And I don't even know if anyone's going to listen to this or if this is going to be at all helpful. It feels incredibly vulnerable, especially right now. But if there's anything that's a takeaway for listeners, I hope it's that if you're feeling this and whether, whatever it is, mental health wise, it doesn't need to be the same as me, is to not wait to get help. I feel like I got help as soon as I knew that I needed help. Maybe not as soon, maybe kind of close, but for a long time, I didn't think that I needed help. I didn't think that that was what I needed. I thought other people probably did, but not me. So even if you're not sure, check in. Check in with someone who can help you. And I'm sure later on the podcast, I'll share more updates as things progress. But in terms of this episode and this journey, I hope it was enlightening and helpful. I am now looking at my evaluation that I just got emailed, and I got pinged for excessive talking. So as an educator looking at this diagnosis, I'm laughing because so much of the language is very negatively connotated. And I am determined to remind myself of the superpowers that come with a differently working brain, a neurodivergent brain. I know that some of my most genius ideas come from the chaos of this brain, and I love her, and she's beautiful. She's amazing, and I need her to stick around and do all those good things for me, but some other regular things too. So here's to loving ourselves exactly how we are, no matter how hard that might be, because it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard sometimes. And I hope that this makes you feel good about yourself and you give your brain a hug today, because we are incredible. Teachers are incredible people, no matter how our brains are put together. And I'm so thankful to have this community around me, and I always have, in the classroom and out. And I'm so thankful for all of you. Cheers, everyone. Thanks again for listening to Brave New Teaching.
We'd love to keep the conversation going over on Instagram.
And while you're there, check out the links in our bio for the most up-to-date events going on in the Brave New Teaching community.
Thanks for being here and have a great week at school.